Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Far Down NFL podcast with me, Jim, and Punk Raider. Where's up at NFL, Punk? How's it going?
Is there anybody out there? There's no one here. Can you hear me?
Abandoned.
Uh, I don't know what's happened to the other two. They've obviously gone off to some sauna for the weekend together or something. I don't know.
Solitary
Spa
confinement.
or something.
Well, we happen to know that Dave is ill, apparently.
Ill.
But yeah,
Promise.
ill. And Finn's just a very busy boy, very popular, and cannot be here today. But we'll
No,
get him back. We'll get him
he's
back, don't worry.
young. He's got a social life. It's one of
Exactly.
those things, you
Must be
know?
one of those things. Needs to get rid of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We're here. We're here, guys, to review week 13 of the NFL season. We had 16 games to go through, and it's just the two of us, but it's quality over quantity. So we're going to smash through these. And of course, once we've done that, we'll get some Punk's power plays, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Maybe. Were there any power plays this week? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Let's get some reviews done. We start every week with the first game of the weekend, and that was Thursday night. It was the Bears at the Lions, and the call that broke the Eberflus back, or rather lack of a call. Lack of anything but a slack-jawed Gurn on the sidelines as the game and his career as a head coach slipped on by. The effort for Chicago to get back into this game was ridiculous, but after getting shut out and slapped up in the first half, the Bears showed something that has been lacking a lot this year, some grit to come back into a game. Down by just 3, thanks to Caleb throwing 3 touchdowns and Lions kicker Jake Bates just missing a 45-yarder, the Bears went on a 12-play drive that included converting unofficially 2 fourth downs. But another late sack and this time complete dereliction of duty by the coaches allowed this game just to run out. Lions go to 11-1. The Bears finally cut bait with the guy who has lost the locker room, and the final score of the Bears 20, Lions 23.
This, for me, was at half time. I was sitting there feeling very smug in my, shall we say, I won't say dereliction of duty of Caleb Williams, but in my assessment of Caleb Williams's progress so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
And then second half, he just made me eat my words, which,
He
you
ain't
know,
that bad.
I find a little galling, but also I'm quite pleased about because it means he's actually starting to show something. I mean, he
Yeah.
ended up with 250 odd yards and 3 touchdowns. And,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm not going to completely um, absolve him of any wrongdoing in that ridiculousness of the last 30 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
because at some point he has to realize there's a problem and call timeout as much as Aberflus does. However, um, it is more on Aberflus and the coaching staff. I mean, even let's be honest, the water boy could have been sat there going, call timeout. It wasn't a difficult thing to see. Uh, the Bears surprised me actually second half. I honestly thought, having watched the Lions absolutely dismantle them for what, 2 quarters,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just going to be another one of these 48 point shellackings. Um, but no, fair play to the Bears. Now, whether some of it was the Lions taking their foot off the pedal or not, I'm not sure. Didn't look like they were. It did look like the Bears had tweaked their offensive play calling slightly and were looking to attack more in the middle of the field in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's good to see that the Bears have still got some fight in them and can make things tricky for teams, even if they're not quite in a position yet to be able to see these kind of games out. Because let's be honest, the Lions pretty much pound for pound the best team in the NFL this season. So, to end up going toe to toe with them as closely as they did is credit to the Bears.
I mean, it's the 6th loss in a row for the Bears, but they've been such galling losses, these heartbreaking last second idiocy
I mean,
moments, that he deserved
you
to go.
do have
He
to
had to
be.
go. Aberflus had to go from
Oh
the
yeah, no,
reports
there's no
afterwards as
question.
well, and
No
the
question.
shouting at him in the locker room. He just lost everything. Um, I don't want to say I told you so. We've been through this a few times already, but
Look,
Aberflus was a defensive coordinator for the Colts. He had no experience as a head coach. He wasn't. I mean, the defense for the Colts wasn't brilliant when he left them. It's not as if it was a kind of a Super Bowl winning coordinator that's going to get a chance somewhere else. It was just, oh, he's been doing this for a few years, and oh, he's mild mannered, and inoffensive and let's stick him in at the Bears. You know, I didn't think the ceiling was ever going to get too high for them, and he's not the right person to be mentoring Caleb Williams. If you've gone number one overall and you actually really want to have a franchise quarterback, you need someone that's going to actually help him out. Eberflus did neither, not even as a kind of Robert Saleh type of getting a fairly solid defense in place um, for another coordinator to sort you out. So, yeah, it's been coming for a long time. They've replaced him with Thomas Brown as the interim head coach. He was only hired in January as the pass game coordinator. He got bumped to offensive coordinator when Shane Waldron was fired last month, but it seems to have a positive effect on the offense. So,
I mean, he's
yeah,
he's
this is a
picking
good
up
move.
paychecks like there's no tomorrow, isn't he? So,
Yeah,
jumping up to OC and then head coach in the same season. But
yeah.
equally, it could just be that he's fresh blood and therefore
Mm.
doesn't have any of the baggage that maybe some of the other coaches and coordinators would have if they stepped into the breach. I suppose. You've got to feel a little bit sorry for Bears fans this season because, coming off Hard Knocks and
Hmm.
everyone was fanfaring the Bears and even you guys were kind of saying, oh, they might sneak into the playoffs and this, that, and the other. Some of the games they've lost have been absolute heartbreakers. They really have.
They would be knocking
So
on the playoff door if they,
I think, well, yeah, no, and I think the Bears fans will look back at this season eventually and just go, what if?
hmm
If we'd had three of those four wild games go our way, then could have made the playoffs. And who knows? Very much like the Broncos and Bo Nix, if they can get Caleb moving in the right direction, which they seem to be now. Yeah, if he's feeling that freedom to be able to throw the ball deep and get Keenan Allen involved, there's no reason why, and it'll have to be next season now because I don't see them winning out by any means. I think they've got a bit of a tough schedule. So, it's I think they're in a spot of kicking themselves in just for the fact that they're not in a position to be able to try and do something in pushing for the playoffs.
Three of their final five games are division opponents, which never
Yeah,
helps.
no.
But
I think there's a lot of teams like that this year, though. I think the NFL, for some reason, have put a lot of divisional games in these last few weeks.
yeah, I'm thankful that they finally kicked out Eberflus. I think there's going to be a big improvement in the locker room now he's gone. And I also like the fact that a couple of weeks ago, DJ Moore was being criticized for walking out of a play during a play. You know, you get that kind of attitude from a receiver. You're not expecting him to stick around for very long. It was still a potential he could have been traded. But rather than just waiting for next season, he actually seems to have dug down and they are feeding him the ball. He is getting touchdowns. It does seem to have blown over whatever was going on there through those weeks. So I don't think the season's over for the Bears just yet. I think they can go on a run now. They haven't got impossible games to win.
It's
They've got the
tricky,
49ers
though.
next, but I think the 49ers are in massive problems. So let's see how it goes. They were so
Yeah,
close to winning some of these games. You've got to look
yeah,
back at
yeah.
them and go, they weren't that far off. So
It's interesting because they're the kind of the anti-Vikings. So if you remember a couple of years ago, the
yeah,
Vikings won like 12 games by one score or less.
yeah.
Yeah, the Bears this season seem to be losing every game by one score or less. So yeah,
Very true. Very true. Let's move on then to a Sunday game. Now we can go wherever we like. So I'm going to go for the Eagles at the Ravens. And in the words of the Kurgan, it's better to burn out than to fade away. Justin Tucker's on his atonement tour after dishing out last-second losses to teams around the league for over a decade. Now he's doing his bit to rebalance the ecosystem by whiffing kicks in every game. When the Ravens need him to keep the score ticking over, he's just not there anymore. Two field goal misses in this one. He also missed an extra point at home. The fall off has been pretty steep, but the Ravens can't just blame Tucker for this one. They were beat up at home by the Eagles, and the man that should now be above both Lamar and Henry for MVP consideration, Saquon once again is the spearhead of this offense. 107 rushing yards and a touchdown. Too good. Don't let the final score fool you. That last 7 points for Baltimore was garbage time padding. Final score here was the Eagles 24, Ravens 19.
this is the Eagles playing back at their best. This
Mm.
is that Super Bowl team from a couple of years ago.
This is better.
Um,
They
it
didn't
is
have a
better.
running
They've
back
got a
like this.
better running game. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They aren't relying on Jalen Hurts to do it all for them.
Hmm.
Uh, I think the fact that they're doing what they're doing with those two rookie cornerbacks as well, it
Yep.
just goes to show what good scouting And yeah, some of it's luck in that you need those players to fall to you in the draft. But
Hmm.
to pick up Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in one draft has really kind of helped galvanize them. And I think that since that bye week, they've been pretty unstoppable. They kind of feel like watching the Eagles recently has felt like how you normally watch the Chiefs in that it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who they're playing, they will find the way to do it. Whether that be, Saquon running for 150 and a couple of touchdowns, or the defense stepping up and getting big plays at the right time. I think the Ravens, for me, the Ravens are they're almost there. They're lacking a little bit on defense, but I just want to know, when do you think Justin Tucker becomes a real problem? Now, it's a shame the other two aren't here because they'd be a bit more neutral on this compared to you. And
Hey,
you'll go, there's no
hey,
problem with Justin Tucker. But
hey. Give him a new
in in,
contract as well.
in a serious conversation,
Mm,
Tucker's missing kicks now that if you were in playoff games, this is going to knock you out of the playoffs.
yeah.
So if you're John Harbaugh, are you sitting there thinking, Jesus, I need to bring someone in to replace probably the best kicker of a generation? Or are you sitting there going, we've got to get him right? And how do you get him right? How do you get a kicker right? Normally it's through, forget that last game and have a storm of the next game. But Tucker's now having bad games consecutively, which going into the playoffs, you really don't want to be doing that with a kicker.
Let's have a quick look at some of his stats, shall we? So from 50 plus this season, he's at 44%. So worse than the coin flip. The rest of the league, 72% at 50
Yeah.
plus.
50 is
From
the new 40.
from
So
40 to
getting told.
49 yards, he's 63%. The rest of the league, 75%. So not only is he like under 50% on some of these things, but he is the entire rest of the league is doing better than him. Now, there have been times before where Justin Tucker has been on a couple of blips. And I also remember there was one season a long time ago when Mason Crosby for the Packers was absolute bobbins. And everyone and their dog was saying, you need to get rid of him. He's done. You don't keep a kicker around. But Packers had a lot of loyalty, I suppose, to Mason Crosby, and they stuck with him. And the next season, he went off, and they were like, "Well, what was the problem? It was a one season where he dipped." So there is a chance that Justin Tucker can reevaluate what's happening. I read an article just today, actually, where a special teams coordinator was from college was saying that he's put so much velocity into his kick, and as he's got a bit older, he's just a little bit slower on hitting that that degree, and 2 degrees
Yeah.
out and you're missing it basically. So if he can recalibrate, then there's no reason why he can't go back to being above league average kicker. Whether he figures it out and how he can actually do that or not, I don't know. He's always put a lot of velocity into his kicks. That's why he's got the longest field goal kick in
I suppose
history.
it's kind of similar to a golfer in that
Yeah.
as they get older, their swing sometimes they need to readjust their swing slightly to get the same
Yes.
amount of distance and so on and so forth. So, I mean, quite how easy that is for a kicker, I don't know.
Mm.
You spent 15, 20 years kicking in the same way in the same style.
Yeah.
So to learn something new might be tricky. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that the Ravens should go out and just pick up a free agent kicker off the street and he'll do better than Justin Tucker. Let's be honest, he's probably earned a bit of loyalty from Baltimore for
That's what I
the
mean.
previous years.
Yeah.
But you've got to be worried. I think if you're Harbaugh, you've got to be worried about it. And yeah, I mean, Crosby is a great comparison, but you can't wait till next season, really. You need it to happen this season. And at the moment, it doesn't look like the Ravens are going to be in a position to be able to take the division title. It's not to say it won't
No.
happen. It's not looking favorable for them, which means they're going to be playing that's away most of the time in the from the wild card round onwards.
Hmm.
And how many times do we see playoff games come down to a last kick of a game, or is decided on a missed field goal or a missed extra point?
Yeah.
So whatever it is, I think they need to get them right soon, before the playoffs start. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be throwing him to the curb yet. But
You just have to reevaluate what you can do with him. Just you
yeah,
can't expect him to make plus 50-yard field goals anymore. But that's why you've got an offense that's supposed to be a juggernaut that, hand it off to Henry or run it with Lamar and you'll pick up the first down. I thought that was the whole point of this offense. You didn't need to rely on field goal kicks. But this is a team that is flawed. Their linebackers, Punk, are bobbins. Absolutely atrocious. I told you at the start of the season, the Ravens won't do so well because they've lost the defensive coordinator and half the backroom staff from the defense. You can't just lose that and expect it still to be working as it was. They lost Patrick Queen as well. We took him. And they just haven't looked as good at all on defense. They're not. They're not as good as they should be. Whereas the Eagles absolutely smacked them up
no,
in Baltimore, and they've got 5 games left, obviously, but only 2 of them are really tough. I think they've got the Steelers and Commanders. Other than that, they've got the Panthers, the Cowboys, and the Giants. I
yeah,
see them
you
winning
wouldn't
easily three
expect
of
them
those
to lose
games.
any of them. Yeah,
They
I
might
think
they might win all of them, but
Eagles could probably win three of those playing second teamers. Let's
yes.
be honest.
So
Um,
yeah,
it's
one end
tricky.
positive.
It is very positive for the Eagles. I think the Eagles are playing, like I said, fantastically well. I think them and the Lions and the Bills for me are the three that are kind of playing the best football and really look like playoff ready teams and good to go.
Yeah,
I think everyone else has a few question marks here and there. Um, but yeah,
yeah. Let's move on to the next game then, shall we? What should we do? Well, let's do the Steelers at the Bengals, shall we? Let's see if the pundit class will finally see this nail in the Bungles' coffin, or believe that Joe Burrow can turn the water of a 4-8 record into a playoff berth. Lou Anarumo looks lost as a defensive coordinator for the Bengals. Despite having the league passing leader and league receiving leader, the Bengals have a minus 81-point differential. That is crazy. But only till you watch them, they allowed Russ to fully cook. Over 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, I believe, has only ever been done 4 other times in Steelers history. You name the player, they had a good day for Pittsburgh. Except maybe Joey Porter Jr., who got flagged for 5 of the Steelers' 9 penalties. But who cares? Steelers win with scores on offense and defense. Final score was the Steelers 44, Bengals 38.
I didn't think the Steelers were able to score 40 points.
It's rare.
They're they're one of those teams, and this is going back historically as well. They've always been one of those real smash mouth teams.
Yep.
Not just because of the division they're in, but even before that, it's before the Ravens games. But Steelers have always had smash mouth teams, and for a Steelers, apart, what was the Super Bowl with the Cardinals? I think that was the last team you had with who's in that team? Let's go Burris, Antoine Randall,
Santonio Holmes,
Tone, yeah,
Willie
Santonio
Parker.
Holmes, Hines Ward. I think that was the last team that you had that really you felt could put up big numbers on a consistent basis.
What about
Um,
Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell? And
yeah,
Martavis Bryant?
you
The killer
the
bees.
thing, yeah, but you could shut that team down.
No.
Yes, you could. You
No.
absolutely could. It
Anyway,
doesn't matter
anyway,
either way, does it?
look, we've
But
only done it four
coming back
times
to
before in our history, right?
coming back to the 2024 Steelers,
Mm,
it's kind of strange how Russell's being able to play. Does that make sense? It's almost like he's had a mind block that he had when he was in Denver removed, and
mm.
has suddenly remembered how to be a quarterback again.
Maybe he's got a
Now,
coach that actually likes him.
I mean, maybe it's the coach, maybe it's the play calling
Hmm.
suits him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not being asked to do, you know, short and intermediate accurate passes. He's being able to hit moon balls a bit more. Um, I think it's there's balance as well, which is really unnerving for a Steelers team because the knock we've all had on the Steelers over the last few years is you've had Najee Harris sat there and you do nothing with him.
Hmm.
Well, now all of a sudden you're feeding him and it's creating opportunity for the passing game as well. So yeah, Steelers are starting to become a bit more of a concern when it comes to the playoffs. I think there are teams out there we'll be looking at the Steelers and going, oh yeah, don't fancy them. Particularly if they end up having to go to Pittsburgh to play you.
Yes.
On the flip side, the Bengals, this offense can't do anymore. If the defense is just going to keep leaking like a sieve, then there's just nothing that can happen, and all that will happen eventually is Burrow or Chase will get injured for the rest of the season, and that'll be it. Um, I still think Burrow is playing at a ridiculously high level, and if he was on any other team, pretty much he'd definitely be in that MVP conversation. But yeah, I think stick a fork in the Bengals. I think they're done, and I think the Steelers now have it in their own hands as to whether or not they win the division.
Yeah, I mean they did pick the Bengals. They had that tip from Hayward, which then was tipped by
Yeah.
T. Higgins, then caught by Dante Jackson. They had a fumble where Nick Herbig knocked the ball out of Burrow's hand, and then Peyton Wilson picked it up and ran it back in for a score. So the offense was getting got at, and of course it's going to get worse for Cincinnati because they're going to have to pay Jamar at the end of the season. They're going to have to let T. Higgins go. They're a poverty franchise. They're not going to pay. They might even pay Jamar. Who knows what they're going to do with him?
They may not do. He may sit there and go, doesn't matter what you put in front of me. I'm not
Hmm.
signing it. I mean, he might have, like you said, historically, the Bengals have always been poor payers and, you
Yeah,
know, never really looked to hold on to people. So, I think I would not be surprised if for the next few years you see them trying to keep Burrow and Chase, but actually I can't see it. I mean, Higgins is gone. We know that
yeah,
already.
yeah.
There's no messing about with him.
Put
I
him
think
in black and gold, please. I'd love
Chase,
to have him
yeah, I
on.
think I think Burrow might be involved in the Chase negotiations because he might go, look, I'm stuck here. Please be stuck here with me. But everyone needs a friend.
Yeah, yeah. All interesting things to look forward to. Let's go on to the next game. So let's do the 49ers at the Bills. And can we just take a minute's silence for the 49ers Super Bowl window, please? 2019 to 2024. With Christian McCaffrey back on IR, there is nothing left on the team that would compete in two Super Bowls and then four NFC championships. The defense in particular is just letting everything through. Ray Davis on the ground, Matt Collins through the air, even Josh Allen taking laterals from Amari Cooper into the end zone. For the Niners offense, Jordan Mason's a decent replacement for Christian McCaffrey, and Isaac Guerendo got a score, but Purdy managed just 94 passing yards in this game. Even when they were getting good field position from a Debo kick return, Juszczyk was fumbling it on the goal line. I don't need to mention the fumbles from Purdy and Debo either. This wasn't close. Final score, the 49ers 10, Bills 35.
This 49ers team is accelerating in the wrong way, even compared to how we were all talking about them at the start of the season.
Mm.
Um, they're not good. Just about average, I think they've played. Now, the last couple of games are kind of anomalies because obviously in Buffalo you had 3 foot of snow, and Green Bay is Green Bay, so it was like -10 or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the Bills are playing in that snow as well, weren't they?
Yeah, but the Bills play in that snow every week. They know exactly
Not
what
every
they're doing.
week. Every
They
week.
do. They do.
Oh,
Come on. There's at
yeah, but
least
hang
three
on.
games a year. There's 3 games a year in
The
Buffalo where
49ers beat the Packers in the playoffs last year in Green
he
Bay.
did, but that was in San Francisco.
No, it was in Green Bay.
No, it was in San Francisco.
Oh, 2 years ago they beat him in Green Bay.
Yeah, but 2 years ago, this was a very different 49ers
Oh,
team.
give off. It's the same bloody team.
That's
So,
the problem. It's the same team. They haven't refreshed it at all.
mm,
Look, I still think the
can't
49ers have
afford
a
to.
chance of making the playoffs. I really do. Uh, I mean, one of the fun things in this game was just watching defenders slipping around trying to get out of their stance, let alone
Yeah.
actually defending anything. So
They're five and
it's
seven. They're fourth in the NFC West. You think they're going to the playoffs?
the NFC West is a weird one because there's still an awful lot of division games to play, and the lead in the division has changed, I think, 4 or 5 times in the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Hmm.
So, Seahawks went from last to first over just by winning 2 games back to back.
Yeah.
So if you can string a couple of wins together, it can make all the difference. The problem right now is that I'm not quite sure where the next 49ers win is going to come from.
I can't see an
So
easy one there.
there's not an easy one, but I mean, I suppose you would look at the Bears coming up next and go, well, if the Bears need to prove that what they did last week in Detroit wasn't a fluke
Hmm.
and that they can actually play fully for 60 minutes. I actually think the McCaffrey injury helps the 49ers in some way because they'd really gotten away from using Jordan Mason at all, and he's definitely been the most explosive back they've had this year. Um, the receiving core just, I don't know. Brock Purdy just isn't getting the ball to them. Now you could put some of that down to the weather, I guess, but he's not got the strongest arm. It doesn't look like Ayuk is helping him that much.
Nope.
Debo's mainly being used as a running back, which doesn't help in my opinion. And
Hmm.
Kittle's clearly over the hill. So, you're limiting the options there for him straight away. I still think don't get me wrong, the 49ers would still be enough teams in the NFL that I think they'll probably, maybe, possibly sneak into a wild card spot, but I really don't see them troubling too many people in the playoffs if they do get there. The Bills, on the other hand, I think, look, Josh Allen is still playing hero ball, but he's playing the right kind of hero ball now. He's not trying to, and I think some of it is getting rid of Stephon Diggs. I know you said it earlier in the season, Jim, that
Hmm.
taking Diggs out of that locker room has really kind of almost galvanized everybody else around Josh Allen
Harmonized.
and
Yeah.
allowed Josh Allen to just actually make his own decisions when it comes to the plays, rather
Yep.
than going, "Oh no, I haven't thrown it at Stephon in the last six throws, so I
And he's
now
told me as well. Yeah.
you know."
Yeah.
Um, but I think honestly, I think Josh Allen's making good decisions. Even when he's just keeping the ball and running with it, he's getting out of bounds more. He just looks more like the general leader on the team that you would want him to be on the field rather than the stud quarterback who, can win a game on his own. I think he's finally learning that he doesn't need to. I think the other thing to say about this is the Bills' defense is starting to get healthy again and is starting to really, really come good.
Hmm.
I think Greg Russo had a fantastic game last week. I think he was all over the place. So yeah, I think 49ers are an interesting one to keep an eye on. I think the Bills now just need to keep winning games, hope the Chiefs lose one, and then hope they do it early enough that they can rest a couple of starters maybe at the towards the end of the season. But yeah, we'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, Bills look good, 49ers not so much.
I'm tempted to make you a cap bet about the 49ers making the playoffs.
Where are we? Let me have a look at the division. Let's have a look at the division.
It's not just that, it's
So,
the conference as well.
yeah, no, we'll look at the conference in a minute. So, in the division, 49ers are 5-7. Seahawks lead it at
Bottom.
7-5,
Yep.
with both Arizona and LA at 6-6. So, 49ers are two games down.
Yep.
Now, remaining games. So, they've got Chicago coming up this week.
And they lost to the Seahawks as well, so a
They
decider
have
there.
lost the Seahawks. Well, no, they've split with the Seahawks, haven't they? Because they beat them in the first game.
Oh yeah, okay. They split them, but they lost to the Rams.
They've lost to the Rams and they lost to the
They
Cardinals.
did, yeah. So all division games. So they've
They
only won
are all
one division
division
game
games.
so far, and they've
So,
played
so
more than
you
half.
would need San Francisco, in theory, to be clear by one game over Arizona and LA at least.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to get two games back on Seattle. They might. They might do. Seattle are very up and down and can lose games as easily as they win games.
Yeah.
Looking at the rest of the divisions, then in the NFC, so Tampa Bay and the Falcons will be at a similar level. Obviously, the North's just far and away the best team in the best division in the NFC. Yeah, you probably they're looking at number seven, if anything, and it will
I
probably
don't think they
be
make it.
between them, Tampa, Atlanta, Arizona, or LA. So it'll be one of those that makes it through. Obviously, one of Atlanta and Tampa will make it as division leaders. So no, they probably won't. They probably won't make the.
Oh, so you won't make a
But
cap bet with me?
no, I won't. Not on this one. Not on this one. They probably won't make the. They probably won't make the playoffs, but
You've
it's
got to stop saying
possible.
it then. Stop
there are
saying they
weird
might make it.
results. They might make it.
It's highly
They might.
unlikely. Let's go on to
Washington is probably more likely, but
yeah.
you know,
Next game. Next game. Let's do the Colts at the Patriots. New England like to put up a bit of a fight at home, at least this season. Yeah, 7-1 game there. But aside from the Texans game, no team has blown them out in Foxborough. It was the same again on Sunday with the Colts. You could probably skip forward to the final drive with this one. The game was fractious, back and forth with mistakes on both sides. Joey Sly missed 2 field goals for the Patriots that would haunt them as the Indianapolis Colts were moving the ball at the end. Richardson completed 1 4th down with a pass to his tight end Mo Alie-Cox, another with his legs, and the third 4th down was the touchdown to Alec Pierce to make it a 1 point game. But I love a team with the chutzpah to go for the win. And they loaded up with Richardson to run in 2 point conversion and win the game. Joe Flacco could never do what Richardson did in that drive. The final score was the Colts 25, Patriots 24.
yeah, but Joe Flacco's done something that Anthony Richardson won't do, and that's win a
What's that?
Super Bowl. So, you know,
Look, we've been through this. He quantum
horses for
leaped.
courses.
He quantum leaped one season. Other than that, awful.
No, let's be honest. The
Carry on.
Colts got lucky here. The fact that the Patriots missed
Lucky.
some field goals. Yes, I
There's no
yes,
luck if you
Anthony
go for two
Richardson
and you
was
get it.
terrible the
There's
entire game
no, he
until the
wasn't.
fourth
No,
quarter.
he
Yes,
wasn't.
he was. He
He
was.
wasn't.
Well, every time I saw him, he was. I
Well,
mean,
you
I
weren't
have
watching then.
to admit, I didn't
How dare
sit down
you?
the entire game, but
Exactly.
everything I saw, he was looking dodgy as, and then just got a couple of good drives in the fourth quarter. That's not what you need, to be honest. I did like the call for the 2 points. I do
Yep.
like a cojones call.
Hmm.
Go and win the game. What's the point in going to overtime? It's a waste of everybody's time.
Yep.
So, might as well go for the win. It wasn't a great game. It's a good win for the Colts. It's another loss for the Patriots.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly was. Where are it's New England? They've got 3 wins still, New England, but only one at home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
they
is
both have a
strange.
bye week now.
That is strange for New England, but yeah, if you're missing kicks, like we were just saying with Justin Tucker before,
Yeah.
that's costing you games.
Let's do another game then. Let's do Tennessee at Washington. The curse has officially been lifted. The silver and black cloud hanging over the Washington Commanders has been swept away. It helps when you get to play the Titans, of course. In the equivalent of a back alley mugging, the Titans were assaulted with 4 back-to-back touchdown drives by the Commanders, while the Titans coughed up the ball on 2 of their possessions to compound the misery for the Tennessee. You can count on Nick Westbrook-Akine to score touchdowns. He did that twice in this game. To not make it a game of abject despair for the Titans fans, but they can't be far off. Final score was the Titans 19, Commanders 42.
This was over by the end of the first quarter.
Mm.
It was
21 nothing.
I mean, you're welcome, Commander fans, but
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's look, this is the Washington we've been expecting to see, and just hasn't been there the last few weeks. Um, any game that you can start touchdown, 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 you're pretty much going to blow average and bad teams away
Yeah.
because they just won't keep up with that pace. And that's exactly what happened here.
It was
It's
4 touchdown drives in a row.
Yeah. What did I say? Three? Touchdown, touchdown,
Yeah.
touchdown, touchdown. That is four. Come on.
I'm just checking. It sounded like 3.
No, it was four in a row. It was definitely four in
Yes.
a row. Um, Brian Robinson looked fit again, which is a massive, massive piece of the Commanders' puzzle.
Hmm.
The last couple of weeks, he's been kind of in and out the team with injury. I know this very much so because my fantasy team won again this week, and they haven't the last couple of weeks. But yeah, look, the Commanders are back on track. I don't hate that they've lost a few games. It shows that they have some fortitude to be able to come back and put themselves back on the right track. It's looking good. I think, I'd be amazed if they don't make the playoffs as a wildcard team. But stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
So who knows? But yeah, no, Daniels looked accurate. I think he only missed 4 or 5 passes, didn't he? I think he was like 25 or 30 for a couple of 100 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Having fun again. Just having fun again.
Robinson's over 100 yards. I think Chris Rodriguez was nearly over 100 yards.
Scary Terry with 2 touchdowns.
Terry had 2. Again, great fantasy points. Yeah, look, I really like Washington. I really like the way they're playing.
Just don't support
They're
them,
going to
please.
lose games. They're young. They're a very young team. You know, they're going to have bumps in the road. But if they can iron those out, as they seem to have done now, there's no reason why they can't. And look, any team that can put up 40 points in a game is going to be a danger when you get to playoffs.
Yep.
So, you know, it's looking good for them. I haven't got much to say on the Titans. They're a bit of a
No,
dumpster fire.
no, no need, no need. Let's do the next one then. Let's go AFC South and the Texans at the Jags. The final score was the Texans 23, Jaguars 20. Because the game seemed almost secondary to the incident with Trevor Lawrence and Texans linebacker Aziz Al-Shaair.
Send him off! Send the drifting gate off! Get him off the field! That was diabolical! Get him off the field! That's just typical of what it is! Get him walking! They don't like it! Walk him, Campbell, if you've got it in bottle! If you've got it in bottle, Campbell, he should walk! That was absolute diabolical!
I've not seen a hit like that since Kiko Alonso tried to decapitate Joe Flacco. But that one, I thought that Flacco didn't get down quick enough. This one, I felt more like the Lamarcus Joyner hit on Teddy Bridgewater. Joyner got a fine for that hit, but Al-Shaair got fined just last week for a late hit on out of bounds for Tony Pollard. He was then fined in week 2 as well after punching Bears running back Rashawn Johnson, who was complaining about Al-Shaair not being flagged for a late hit on Caleb Williams just before that. So this guy has had previous, and I don't think another fine will cut it. The league have come out and given him a 3-game suspension and a fine. Uh, I mean, I was kind of thinking this should be the rest of the season. There's no need to
I
keep this guy around.
I like hard hitting football. I like proper hits,
Yeah,
good tackling. What I
yeah,
don't like is targeting, deliberately trying to injure somebody.
yeah,
Uh, this I agree with you. I think it should have been to the end of the season. This was completely egregious. He didn't even launch until Lawrence had already slid for a yard. So there was no way he could complain that Lawrence was starting a slide and then, carrying on or slowing down and starting up again.
yeah.
Uh, it's one of those things that, and you're right. I mean, he's got form for it. He's obviously not learning from being fined, so suspension is the right way to go. 3 games, I'm not sure he's going to learn a lesson on 3 games. Maybe if you fine him all his game checks and kick him out to the end of the season, then that might have an effect. But yeah, I did. The game really pales into insignificance when something like this takes place, and hopefully, Trevor Lawrence will recover and come back. But yeah, there's no room for that in this day and age of NFL football.
It's been obviously a few days since that happened, and of course you're going to get pushback from or defense from certain parties. Obviously, Texans GM Nick Caserio came out basically defending him to the hilt, saying it was ridiculous that they were looking to punish him this way. There's been certain commentators agreeing, saying there's no way he should have been suspended for 3 games. It was nowhere near. It was a bang bang play. He couldn't have done anything
Wasn't a
about it.
bang bang play at all.
Yeah, and of course
I
the other thing that's come out of this is saying, is the slide the thing you should now be telling quarterbacks don't slide because you're putting yourself in a position where you are more vulnerable to having
I
the back of your head smacked off the turf.
Yeah, I've thought this about the slide for a while. This isn't. I think we've spoken about this before.
Yeah,
Maybe not this season, but certainly in previous seasons, where actually I think sliding quarterbacks are almost more at risk than if you're just running with your head up and your shoulders available to take hits.
yeah,
Because as soon as you hit down, as soon as you hit the ground and start sliding, if a defender is coming the other way at speed, then there can be bang bang plays that are accidental and yeah, heads bouncing off turf. And we've seen it with Tua, many a time.
yeah.
And I'm not sure if the answer is don't tell your quarterback to slide or whether the answer is actually don't allow the quarterback to, if the quarterback is running, don't allow him to slow down and speed up. Don't allow them to. Do you know what I mean? So kind of like I'm trying to think of an example. So there was Josh Allen play in the playoffs last year. I think it was against the Steelers. And
He
at the
faked a
time,
slide.
you were saying, yeah, it looked like to you that he'd faked a slide and
Yeah,
carried on. And of course, the defender pulls up
yeah.
because he's not an idiot, and
And
so
if
on
you
and so
don't,
forth.
you get a penalty, which happened later on in the game when he started
Exactly.
sliding. We got hit. Yeah.
But you know, so there are two sides to that bit of the argument, but there
Yes.
are not two sides to whether Al
I'll show
Shahir
you. Yeah.
deliberately smashed into Trevor Lawrence's face. You know, that's beyond reproach.
No, the fact that Ryan Clark, who's an ex cornerback, came out and said there's no way he couldn't have dived up. As soon as he saw that the slide happening, he had chance to make a move to not be smacking him in the face with his forearm.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
literally, as soon as the slide starts happening, you don't need to launch yourself at him at all. You just need to
yeah,
touch him on the foot.
yeah. So again, I think that the quarterbacks have to kind of find a new way of getting tackled. They have to learn a way of moving sideways, maybe when they're about to get tackled. So the like rugby, the impact isn't quite as head on as you'd expect. They need maybe sideways slide, something they've got better do to protect themselves better than what they're doing, because the unwritten rule or the gentleman's rule is that you're giving yourself up. As you said, some quarterbacks take advantage of that to gain to gain extra yards. Mahomes
Yeah.
is kind of a magician at looking like he's going to do something and then doing the opposite. And it's worked out, but you're putting yourself in the position here where something can happen to you. It looks quite horrific, and hopefully Trevor does come back very quickly. He's been through concussion protocol. Obviously, he's out for the next game at the very least, but hopefully it's not for more than one game. And I think we can move on from that. you know, it's just one of those plays that unfortunately we have to still see. Happens a lot more in
Yeah.
college as well than it happens in NFL, but it still does happen. I think that quarterbacks have to move away from sliding and do something else.
And defenders just mentality. I know the mentality is kill the quarterback, but lads, at the end of the day, it's a game. You don't
Obviously,
actually have to kill the quarterback.
no, no, and I'm sure if you Al Shire will say that he didn't try to, but and he
Video
has said
evidence
that in
would
his
say
in his
otherwise.
apology. But I don't. What do you expect? They're only human. If you're going to hit someone like that, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oof. Anyway, I want to move on to another game. Let's do the Seahawks at the Jets. Jets go and lose again, this time after being up by 14 in the first half. In fact, the Jets got shut out in the second half as the Seahawks turned the screw on defense. One to try and forget for Laviska Shenault, who muffed twice in one kick return. But Leonard Williams got himself a power play worthy highlight score in there, as well as the late sack to kill the game. And Ernest Jones gets a shout out for a second week in a row for his efforts at linebacker. Final score was the Seahawks 26, Jets 21.
Yeah, Jets this season have been poor in first halves and good in second halves. This
Yeah,
week they decided to flip the script and be fairly good in the first half, and then as soon as big old 99 got his touchdown, they just kind of folded.
yes.
Um, it was, yeah, I mean, it goes to show really just the mentality of the Jets at the minute. So much so that, spoiler alert, I don't think I'm going to be picking them for the rest of the season. Um,
You're moving off them. Oh dear,
yeah, I
okay.
think I'm moving on from them as my catch-up team. Uh, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, Seattle, to be fair to them, made hard work of it at times as
They've done
well.
that a lot this season. Yeah.
Gino, we definitely got good Gino and bad Gino at the same time in this game.
hmm
But yeah, the Seahawks are an interesting one because you look at their personnel and you kind of go, they should be really, really good. And yet they just always find that wrinkle in that they allow teams to hang around, or Gino will throw an interception or something and just keep them in it. Um, yeah, I like the Seahawks, but they're just not complete. They just have that slight ability to be able to shoot themselves in the foot
I mean,
more
we've
often
said
than
that they're a deeply flawed team. They have very good skill positions, but they need to really work on the trenches in the next couple of
yeah,
drafts.
and I think they will.
Yeah.
I don't think they're stupid enough to not see that. But anytime you go all the way west to east and win a game, that's always a
Yeah.
good thing. And like we were saying about the 49ers, it gives them that two game lead in the division. So it's yeah, all good for the Seahawks.
It's their third win in a row as well. So
Yeah,
nice little run they're going on. Nice little quiet
momentum.
run. Let's go on to the next game, and let's do the Bucks at the Panthers. And a good game in NFC South. Weird, but the Panthers aren't a pushover anymore. The Bucks had to ride a banged up Baker Mayfield as we finally got a look at Kyle Trask with Baker briefly in the blue tent. Poor bugger completed one pass before Baker ran back on the field and threw an instant pick to Xavier Woods. That was Baker's second of the day, but he was still driving the ball well and got Merrick Evans' seemingly standard 100-plus receiving yards and a touchdown. Bucky Irving was also gashing the Panthers on the ground, 152 rushing yards and a touchdown for him. The game went into overtime. The Bucks kicker missed a field goal. Bryce hits an Adam Thielen that looked 10 years younger, but a fumble on the next play allowed the Bucks to move back and the kicker to atone with a game winner. Good game, maybe even a great game. Final score after overtime was the Buccaneers 26, Panthers 23.
This was a surprisingly good game.
Mm,
We've seen over the last few weeks the Panthers slowly getting better, and Bryce Young looking like a proper NFL quarterback.
we have.
I mean, he still makes mistakes. Clearly, he's still very young, and decision
Second
making
season.
at times needs to improve. But yeah, this is no slouch of a Buccaneers team to run them this close. They've done really well.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks started slowly for me. It wasn't. I mean, other than Mike Evans' amazing catch for the touchdown, they were kind of just there, but they weren't really pushing the ball too hard.
Hmm.
They were, yeah. It was kind of one of those where they do three steps forward, two steps backwards. It was like some good stuff, then some really bad stuff. But yeah, it was a fun game. It was a fun game to watch, and bit of a heartbreaker for the Panthers in overtime. But that's the way the cookie crumbles when you're down there in the basement, I'm afraid.
They've just run the Chiefs and the Bucks to 3-point games, and
Yeah,
after winning against the Saints and the Giants, it doesn't get any easier. They got the Eagles this week, but then they got the Cowboys, the Cardinals, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons to end up the season. There's
and
a
I
couple
hope
of
they
wins in
win
there, I
every
think.
single one of them.
I think there's a couple of wins in there. I just they're not the
I
same
think
team
so.
they were at the start of the season. It's
No,
great to
they're
see
not.
an improvement. And if you think about Bryce was having real problems with everything at the start of the season, but especially the blitz. And we know Todd Bowles loves to blitz. He blitzed almost half of the snaps in this game, but Bryce was absolutely dealing on it. He was understanding where the blitz package was coming from and getting the ball out quickly and was absolutely torching them, absolutely gashing them when they came on that blitz.
Did he get
It's
300
very
yards in
impressive.
this game? I know he was close to it at one point. I don't know if he actually got 300 or not, but
I don't know.
because I don't think he's had a 300-yard game yet, has he, in his career?
Oh, now you're asking a different question.
Yeah, no. Oh no, he got 298, 298 and one touchdown. But yeah, I mean, in my eyes, anyway, that's the first game I've seen where he's even got close to 300, and he was definitely in charge of his offense.
Hmm.
He looked more confident. His passes had zip on them. They were getting where they needed to be. I mean, it was a bit of a poor throw to the Thielen in overtime, but we might talk more about that one later.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
So,
he had it in him still, Adam Thielen, but there we go. Okay, next game. Let's do the Raiders at the Chiefs. So the Chiefs
oh,
get another win to go 11-1 and maintain their 100% record at home. It wasn't going to be easy for the Raiders. They've only won twice in Arrowhead in the last 10 years. But Aidan O'Connell is at least willing to let that ball fly. And when you have a special player to throw at, well, why not? O'Connell ended with 340 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. 140 of those yards and 1 touchdown were plucked in by Brock Bowers. Unfortunately for the Raiders, Bowers doesn't play defense and special teams too, as Mahomes went for over 300 passing yards and the Raiders kicker Daniel Carlson missed 3 of 4 field goals. All were over 50 yards out. And a mistake on the final drive saw any chance of the Raiders pulling off an upset ended. The final score here was the Raiders 17, Chiefs 19.
yeah, move on.
And there's no Broncos fan to be rolling on this one. I mean, come on, Punk. Come on.
All right, all right. Firstly, let's give Brock Bowers his official title.
Yes.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, even though he's not a quarterback. Brock
Yes.
Bowers. He's a phenomenal player. He
Yeah.
really is. Every week I keep watching him getting covered by, A1 cornerbacks,
Yep.
McDuffie, Pat Surtain, and they can't stop him. No
No.
one can stop him. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Look, we went into this game with no running game to speak of. Sincere McCormack did his best, but he's a guy off the practice squad. Literally, we've got nothing at running back. Aiden O'Connell, I actually thought this was Aiden O'Connell's best game for us, to be honest.
Hmm.
No interceptions, always good. I think he had about a 65% pass completion rate, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. I've got no problem with any of that at all.
No.
I do not expect Daniel Carlson to be missing 50-yard field goals. This is bread and butter to him. It's absolutely ridiculous. That at the end of the day, it's one of those. It's kind of like the Bears losses. It's one of those squeakers that you just kind of think, what on earth is going on that final play?
Hmm.
It's
It had to
just
happen.
run
It had
out,
to happen.
kick the field goal, job done. Even if you leave them 7 seconds, I know Patrick Mahomes can do mad things in 13 seconds, but
You
I think
can.
even he struggle with 7 seconds. So yeah, just do that. Don't try snapping the ball and anyway. It was just a comedy of errors and a lack of communication at the end there. I think O'Connell was clapping to move some of his receivers around because they were in the wrong place. Parham took that as the signal that he was ready for the ball, so touched
Yeah.
Pat Johnson, who then snapped the ball. And then, of course, it's just, well, what's going on there? A lot of people were kicking off that it should have been a false start, not an illegal formation, because that would have been a dead ball penalty and just
Yeah.
given the Raiders the ball back. But genuinely,
They
if
were
the
wrong.
clock is running, then it can't be a false start. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's one of those just horrible, horrible plays. As for the Chiefs, I mean, seriously, how lucky can one team be? We say it every week, but this is getting beyond a joke now. It really is getting beyond a joke. I don't understand how no one, apart from the Buffalo Bills, seem to be able to beat this team at all.
Well, hold
It's
up. I mean, they've still got a few games to go. Got some tough teams to go up against. Got Chargers this
they made the
weekend.
playoffs. They've made the playoffs now, haven't they?
Yeah,
They
they made the
must.
playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've still got the Steelers and still got the Broncos as well
Oh, that's a
in
game that
Denver.
I don't really want to cheer for anybody either, isn't it? Chiefs and Steelers. I mean, come on, man.
Come on, come on. Raiders now lost their last 8 in a row. Here's
Yeah,
Punk.
we're fine. Don't worry about that. It's all going to plan. Suck for Shador. That
Yeah,
seems to be
you're coming
the
around to that,
the
are you?
cry that's
Okay,
going on. I'm not coming around to anything yet. I want to see where we end up first.
okay.
At the end of the day, it's been a bad season. I still think our defense is pretty good. I think especially with Hobbs and Co being out for so long, I think the defense is holding up pretty well. It's creating opportunities for the offense. It's a shame that Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb when he did, because I think if he'd the last 4 or 5 games, we might have had a few more wins on the board anyway.
Yeah,
Um, no, he's not the answer. He will make a great backup quarterback in the NFL for a very long time.
he's a
Uh,
Taylor Heineke type, isn't he?
he is exactly that.
He can
He's
come in. It's not going to completely lose you the game, hopefully, but he's unlikely to win regularly as a starting quarterback.
no, he's not.
No. We'll move on then. I won't talk about I was going to say Antonio Pierce. I was right as well. His name is Antonio Pierce. I'm not going to talk about him
Yeah,
though.
no. Antonio Pierce. I mean,
Oh, we are talking about him.
well, do we have to? I
No,
don't know. No,
no.
let's leave it to the
Let's
end of the
leave him.
season.
Let's leave him
Let's
for
leave
now.
it.
I'm sure that'll come back around soon. Let's do the Giants at the Cowboys. Drew Lock versus Cooper Rush on Thanksgiving, but no one was giving thanks for that matchup. Luckily, Rico Dowdle was up for doing fun things on national TV. 112 rushing yards and the touchdown with over 5 yards to carry. Also, shout out to Cowboys linebacker DeMarvion Overshone, who got a pick 6 in the first half. Overshone was a third-round pick last year and then tore his ACL in the preseason, so this is technically his rookie season. It looks good so far. Final score was the Giants 20, Cowboys 27.
Do you know what? I can't remember anything from this game.
It was a pretty meh game of two.
It was, wasn't it?
Meh. NFC East teams. It was the middle game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So you'd had the ridiculous Lions
Bears,
Bears finish.
Lions.
So yeah, okay, people were watching it, but no one really cared about this game. And then you went on to the Dolphins Packers in the evening. So um, this game, yeah, it had some scores
It's
in it,
just two
but
bad
no
teams.
good quarterbacks in it. So I'm happy if you don't want to say anything, Punk,
I
on this
suppose, I
game.
suppose,
We can
I
move
suppose
on.
the only, yeah, no, we'll move on. But I think the only thing to say really is how the hell has this Dallas team won 5 games? It's
Yeah,
insane.
well, yeah.
What's going on? Who's putting their schedule together
There
that
was
this
definitely a
team win
fluky
five
win
games?
for them back in week 5.
Commanders one was a fluky one.
Yeah, but they've beaten the Browns, the Giants, and the Giants. So yes, let's go on to
Yes.
the Miami Green Bay game. If the Dolphins don't want to be thought of as soft in cold weather, they aren't doing a very good job of dispelling this. More worryingly, though, they seem to be just playing badly against good teams. Their only wins this year have been against middling to bad opponents. The Packers were 27-3 up thanks to a Josh Jacobs run and 2 Jalen Reed catches. Scores in the second half for Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill simply stopped this score from looking too brutal, as the final score was the Dolphins 17, Packers 30.
I mean, any time that the halftime score is 24-3,
Yeah,
you're pretty safe in thinking that well, one team's playing well and one team is not playing particularly well.
mm,
Having said that, I think Tua had a fairly decent game. He was, 350 yards, couple of touchdowns, no interceptions. Um, and it's just Miami's defense, isn't it? They can't stop anybody if they're playing a decent offense. It seems like they just don't get the pass rush there. The cornerbacks just don't seem to be able to cover for
no
more than
sacks
about
again.
2 seconds. Yeah, it's just not a good recipe for winning games, regardless of how your offense plays. And of course, once you're 24 down, you're just slinging it about anyway. So immediately you're taking, you know, Mostert and A-Chain out the offense and throwing even more receivers like Odell Beckham in, which, let's be honest, is not a winning formula.
No, but at
The
least Achane
Dolphins,
will catch it out of the backfield, so he is still a
yeah,
threat,
no, he will,
even in
he
the
will.
receiving game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But once you start having to throw it down the field, then you're really a bit of a lost cause.
Yeah,
I don't know if this cold weather thing is actually true or not. I do find it amazing that it's been so long since they won in cold weather, and the fact that two has never won in cold weather. But I just don't see the Dolphins. Yeah, I know they've got a decent schedule, and they could possibly make the 7 seed in the playoffs, but
yeah,
I think if they do, someone will be licking their lips and wanting to play them because I just don't think they're very good, to be honest.
yeah. There's injuries again, isn't it? Is it Jalen Phillips is out for the second season in a row? Chop Robinson has done pretty well, but um, he's a one trick pony. So
Yeah.
if you can scheme him out of it, then he's nullified. It's just a bit of a shame, really. They were so far behind so soon. They only had 39 rushing yards as a team in this game because they had to
Yeah.
keep stinging it. So yeah, always behind the 8 ball in this one. Let's go on to the Chargers at the Falcons. And congratulations to Terry Fontenot. That man must have smelt the fade on Kirk Cousins as soon as he limped into the building in the offseason. He knew that the 8th pick in the draft couldn't go to a pass rusher. It must go on a quarterback. He alone saw the writing on the wall. It's taken 13 weeks, but a 4 interception performance, in air quotes, and 0 touchdowns from Cousins means that while other teams like the Dolphins sink like a stone when their franchise guy goes down, the Falcons are primed. While the throws were egregious, it's great to see that 5th-round rookie Tahib still was able to get 2 of them, including a pick 6. Cameron Dicker had 3 more successful field goals as the Chargers weirdly failed to score on offense. Didn't matter this time, though. The final score was the Chargers 17, Falcons 13.
Not the most entertaining of games. I think my main takeaway from this is it's the same question with Justin Tucker. Is Kirk Cousins done? Is there a problem with Kirk Cousins?
He's old and he's got an Achilles injury, the same as
Well,
Aaron Rodgers
he,
had.
he had an Achilles injury. I'd
Yeah,
say 13 weeks into the new season, he's probably over that injury. Whether it's still affecting him or not, I don't know. But I think this is I think you're right. I think Atlanta will be patting themselves on the back and going, "Well done for drafting a quarterback." Because
Yeah,
on this evidence and the evidence that we've seen over the last few weeks, you look at that Denver game a couple of weeks ago as well. Cousins is even when he is slinging the ball and he's getting it to his receivers, he's having other passes where there's just no velocity on the ball. So I
yeah.
don't know if that's a lack of power coming through his feet or his arm strength is going. Look, the Falcons are a bit of a mess, if I'm honest, because then they're not defensively, they're not able to get pressure. They can run the ball, and when Cousins is given time, he can find a receiver and all the rest of it. But far too often he's throwing games away with just silly interceptions that don't need to happen. We saw one a couple of weeks ago in the end zone where he's trying to throw it into triple coverage, and it's like, what are you even looking at? Um,
They were bad. I mean, that's the reason why everyone's talking about it now. It's not just four interceptions; they were four bad interceptions.
yeah, then it's weird how quarterbacks do this though, that they will suddenly drop off a cliff and there's absolutely nothing that stops them doing it. Um, the problem I think Atlanta have got more than anything is the fact that they're still leading the division. So
Yeah,
can you really make that change whilst you're winning the division? Probably not. And with the amount of money that they've given to Cousins, I think they have to keep starting him at least for this season.
yeah.
Um, but if he didn't get indoors after that game and get read the riot act, then there's something else going on. But and Kyle Pitts, no catches. Yeah, you've got a huge tight end
The
weapon
enigma that
there
is Carl Pitts
that
just
you
keeps
seem to
going.
use once every 4 games.
Yeah,
It some of the play calling leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, I actually picked Raheem Morris to be my
coach of the year.
yeah at the
You
start of the
did,
season.
yeah.
And that's definitely not happening. So yeah, but Chargers
Hey,
again
if
looking
they put in
good.
Penix, he might just jump up in the
Well, you
standings.
never know. You never know. If they put in Penix and he wins the next 5 games straight and gets them into the playoffs and they win a playoff game, then there's
Yeah,
a possibility. But I just don't see that happening. Um, Chargers just did Charger stuff, really, didn't they? They didn't look exceptional on offense. They've played better offensive games recently.
they've scored touchdowns
Um,
off it. I've seen them do it. Yeah,
but yeah, but they did enough. They did enough to win it. So, you know, Chargers moving forward. Falcons, I think they're slipping back a bit, and I think they need to be nervously looking over their shoulders at the Bucks now as well, because I think the Bucks are in a little bit of finding themselves a little bit of form.
they've got at least one receiver back, so yeah, that helps. And yeah, again, Tahib still great game for him for the rookie fifth rounder. You love to see it. Let's move on. Let's do the Rams at the Saints, and the Rams were scoreless at halftime. But the feeling was that the Saints were there for the taking, and it proved to be true. Kyron Williams ended up with a season high 104 yards, including a touchdown, while Stafford was hitting DeMarcus Robinson and Puka Nacua in the fourth quarter to see the Rams clear of an insipid Saints team. Alvin Kamara is the only bright spot for New Orleans. Although I do need to make a small apology to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I said in his first game for them that he would fade away, but he's now had 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. So congrats on that. Final score was the Rams 21, Saints 14.
Alvin Kamara was an absolute beast in the first half of this game.
Yeah.
He was just running over people left, right, and center. It's just a shame that none of the rest of the New Orleans offense could do anything at all, really. Um, this was one of those strange games in that it's kind of a microcosm of the Rams season in that they play well enough to win the game, but they don't play well enough to put the team away,
Hmm.
or they just don't have that ability to be able to really kind of put their foot on the throat and crush the life out of someone. That the Saints, they're just a bit of a mess, aren't they? I mean, I'm still not sure why Kamara signed a new deal with them, to be honest, on cash, but you could have got that anywhere.
Enjoying
Um,
freedom as well.
well, maybe, but I don't know. This just feels like the Rams are a middling team. They're not overly exciting. It definitely feels like they need more of a refresh um, than they've got currently. Yes, look, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, great receivers. Cooper Cup is still doing bits and pieces. He's obviously not as explosive as he used to be. But defensively, I feel like they just don't. And first season after Aaron Donald is always going to be a tricky season, but
Hmm.
it just doesn't feel like they're able to really kind of crush the life out of teams, which sometimes you need to be able to do. And if the offense isn't firing, which sometimes this offense doesn't, the defense need to step up a little more. Look, honestly, I don't think either of these teams are going to make the playoffs,
No,
but
no.
it's it's interesting to see where the Saints and Rams go next season, I guess. Obviously, Derek Carr's still has he got one more year on his contract, or has he got no,
I
I
think
think
so.
that's it. It's got one more year, but I think there's a
There's always a get out clause with
an
Derek Carr.
out somewhere this season. It's a shame Dave's not here. He'd know his
He
contract
would
state.
know. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Saints need to rebuild. I think the Rams need to rebuild, just on opposite sides of the ball, really. So
Don't you
yeah,
think it's about time for Stafford though? He's got his Super Bowl.
the thing with
He
Stafford is
doesn't. He
that
doesn't need to do this anymore.
no, you're absolutely right. He doesn't need to do it anymore. But the thing with Stafford is that he's not one of these quarterbacks that's taking loads and loads of hits.
He has
So
taken loads and loads of
he
hits.
has done when he was in Detroit, but over the
Yeah.
last few years, he's taken less and less.
Mm.
Um, that I
He's
still
still
think
he's getting older. He
Stafford's
gets
a
hurt.
serviceable quarterback. I'd be amazed if he's doing it for another couple of years.
I'm not
But
saying that he's washed. He's not like a Kirk Cousins danger alert about not being good anymore. I'm saying he is good. But I'm just saying that if you want to be challenging again, maybe the fight's gone out of the dog a little bit. You know what I mean? He's reached that. He's got everything
comfortable,
he wanted to
pipe
do.
and slippers stage.
Yeah, exactly. He's enjoying himself, but have you really got that hunger to really push for a title? You've got one. You've got one in your home stadium. You know,
It's a good question.
do
It's
they
a
need
very good
someone
question. I don't
new
know
in
the
there?
answer.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Um, let's move on. We've got a couple of games to go. The first one I've got here is the Cardinals at the Vikings. Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon both came from the Eagles team that reached the Super Bowl in 2023. But while Steichen was laying his nuts on the line to get the walk-off win this week with his team, Gannon was taking a more yellow approach with his team when they were up by 3 with 3.5 minutes left in the game. They were at the Vikings' 4-yard line, but on fourth down, Gannon took a field goal to be up by 6. It told the Vikings that only a touchdown would do, and guess what? The Vikings do go and get a touchdown on the next drive, including converting a 4th and 5. Well done, Johnny. Final score was the Cardinals 22, Vikings 23.
I think the Vikings are missing a running game at the minute. I think Aaron Jones is doing all right, but he's not pulling up any roses. He's not really helping Donald out too much. I think the Cardinals were unlucky. I think they played pretty well. Kyler's got this habit at the minute of chucking interceptions at just the wrong time in games,
Mhm.
and it's kind of costing them points. This couple of decent teams that couldn't really get it going. I think the Vikings, they're probably a lucky 10-2, but
Incredibly lucky 10-2, Punk.
no,
Incredibly lucky.
they're incredibly lucky.
The
You still got to
Cardinals, I
win
just
the
told you
game.
how the Cardinals gave them that win. Why are you
Yeah,
going for another 3 points when you need to go up by a score? You've given them a chance to go down and get a touchdown. It's the same as what we saw in the last Super Bowl when the Niners took a field goal in overtime. It told the Chiefs, you must go for it on fourth down. That 4th and 5, if it was only up by 3, then they would have kicked a field goal. They wouldn't have risked a 4th and 5 at the halfway line. They'd have gone for a field goal at that point, and then you had another chance for Kyler to make another move back down the field with about a minute to go. They lost the game by playing yellow.
yeah, maybe. I don't. It's a tricky one. I'm not sure it's quite as clear cut as that. I think if you've got the opportunity to take the points, sometimes you need to just put the points on the board.
But the points only
Um,
get you to 6, so a
yeah,
touchdown loses the
I
game.
get that, but you're also kind of just saying, well, you can't just go and get a field goal. So you're at that point, you could flip it around and say, I trust my defense enough to not give up a touchdown. So therefore, I'm going to kick the field goal because I feel quite comfortable my defense will only give up a field goal if needs be. And look, it backfired. Look, the Cardinals are a young team. They're going to learn from all this stuff, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I've got a sneaky feeling they're going to be much better next year, to be honest, the Cardinals. I think if they make the right moves in the off season, um, shoring up that defense and giving Kyler a few more weapons to play with, then I can see them being really good next year. But I think this year it's I just don't quite get how the Vikings have gone from being absolutely dominant in their first kind of 6 or 7 games to really struggling in the last sort of 3 or 4. If you think they've struggled to beat the Bears,
Mhm.
they struggled in this Cardinals game. There was one in between that I can't remember that they struggled with as well. Um, and it
Jags only
can't
won
just be down to
12-7.
that's it, Jacksonville. And it can't just be the fact that teams now have tape on Darnold because, Dunn's not new. He's been around for a
No.
while. There has been tape on him for a long time. So I'm not quite sure what it is. But, they're certainly not as dominant and free flying as they were earlier in the season, which, let's be honest, doesn't bode well if you're going into the playoffs. But having said that, they can score points. And any team with Justin Jefferson on it, who again has been quite quiet over the last few weeks, has got a chance. Cardinals, they might sneak into the playoffs. That NFC West is so up and down, and there's a lot of divisional games still to play in there. So they're still in with a shout. But I do feel like with the Cardinals, it's a year or two too early.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe that Sam Darnold tape's like a convenience store security footage, like 24 hours and you wipe it because it's not important.
Maybe.
Let's do the last game Monday night, and that was the Cleveland Browns at the Denver Broncos. I thought these teams were supposed to have good defenses, Punk. In the end, Jameis Winston was the difference. 2 pick-sixes and another red zone interception with the game on the line ruined what was almost a single-handed revenge game for Jerry Jeudy. 235 receiving yards and a touchdown on 9 catches is ridiculous. Bo Nix wasn't doing much better at quarterbacking, with 2 picks of his own, but one highlight shot to Marvin Mims for a 93-yard score will be all that Dave remembers from this game. The final score here was the Browns 32, Broncos 41.
I have no comment on this game. I haven't seen it.
Oh,
I've seen one play from this game,
I'm sure you have.
and that was the Marvin Mims touchdown.
Yeah.
So you can tell me, is this Jameis Winston being Jameis Winston, or are Denver actually genuinely good?
Well,
Because
hang
I
on.
don't want you to say that Denver are genuinely good.
No, I'm not genuinely good. No, this is Jameis Winston launching ridiculous balls up into the air and somebody getting picked. Like I said, 2 pick-sixes in one game and a
Yeah,
third
that
interception
happens.
to kill the game. It was a joke. Um, yeah, just looking at but he still had 497 passing yards. You can't tell me you've got a good defense if a quarterback is hitting you for 497 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, but just 3 interceptions.
I'm looking at these stats.
What?
Genuinely, I haven't even looked at the stats before now,
Oh,
and
right, okay.
I'm aghast that Jerry Jeudy has 235 yards,
Well, I just told you that. Yeah.
and I'm aghast that James Winston has 497 yards. And yeah, hang on. So if I
Judy was on
go,
a tear in this game. He was so up for winning this game.
it was a revenge game for him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, he's done nothing all
I
season
mean,
long.
he's always been good. We know we've always said it. He's
I mean, it's
an
a good
amazing
good
receiver.
start to the game when the first 2 drives are punt, missed field goal. So
yeah.
that bodes well. And then after that, it just looks like no one could stop anybody apart from
No, there was no defense in this game apart from just running it back the other way when you've caught the bad throw. Like I said,
I
Bo
might
Nix,
have to go and watch
two
it.
interceptions for Bo Nix. You need to go and watch this because it was one good throw. He was 18 of 35 in this game for 294 yards, a QBR of 41.4. Completion percentage was 51.3, which if Anthony Richardson
That's
does
not
that,
good.
then he gets
That's
pelters.
not 50% completion rate is
Yeah.
not good
No,
at all.
no.
Especially if you're playing at home in your own stadium and the fans are quiet and
And it's the Browns.
it's the
You know,
Browns. Yeah, it's not like they're playing a good defense like the Raiders or something.
But both these defenses get lauded as being really good, but they put up this weird game here where
Maybe
it's not.
they're all still too fat and drunk from Thanksgiving and just
Well,
come.
possibly. Uh, yeah, I mean, Jameis is absolutely loopy. He's getting worse this season. I think he's
How
discovered
can Jameis
TikTok baby or
possibly get
something.
worse? That's just
Well,
not possible.
they just seem
It's
to highlight him more. I don't know what it is, whether he's on TikTok or something, but he seems just to be playing up to every single thing comes out of his mouth. It's just, I'm glad he's not my quarterback. That's what I've got to say to you. I'm glad that guy, because I can understand why he's throwing pick sixes all over the place. His brain doesn't work in the same way that a normal quarterback works. It's scary.
yeah,
But there we go, another win for Denver,
another win for Denver.
which
Unfortunately,
which we all predicted.
we did, but equally, it's where. Well, oh dear me. So Denver now
On their
actually look.
bye.
Yeah, no, they're on their bye, but I'm just looking at the likelihood of them sneaking into a playoff
Well,
spot. They're
they've 4 games left. They've got the Colts at
eight
home.
and five.
They've got the Chargers away and the Bengals away, and then the Chiefs at home.
I mean, seriously, if you told me at week 13 that the Broncos would have the same record as the Ravens, I'd have laughed in your face, to be honest. They are going to sneak into the playoffs, I think.
Maybe, but chum in the
Uh,
water if they're going to be that kind of
they
defense.
probably will. But oh yeah, if they play defense like that, they won't last very long.
And if Bo Nix throws 50% completion percentage, then I'll take
That
those
also
odds.
won't help them at all.
No. There we go. That was week 13. Done. So we now need to move on to the best part of the pod, and that, of course, is Punk's Power Plays.
Oh, best part of the pod. Don't say that when the others are around, do you? Right.
I don't get a word in edgeways most of the time.
That's true. That's true. We both struggle to get words in normally. So, as it was Thanksgiving weekend, there were two Thanksgiving drunk plays for us to look at. Obviously, we've spoken about both of them, but the Bears taking 30 seconds to mess up the field goal to tie the game against the Lions, and ended up running one last play just to run out the clock.
So what is the power play here? Wait, what? How's that power play?
These are Thanksgiving drunk plays.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And then Jackson Powers, pay attention, 007. And then Jackson Powers Johnson snapping the ball when no one was set, costing a game-winning field goal attempt for the Raiders. Hat-trick heroes this week. None. No hat-trick heroes. No one played that well. They were all average. Honourable mentions. So, Jameson Williams' third quarter end around and high hurdle over a defender for the Lions. Bo Nix's 93-yard laser touchdown to Marvin Mims Jr. in triple coverage on 3rd and 11. DeMarvion Overshone's juggle to himself pick six for the Cowboys. And Kene Nwangwu's 100-yard return touchdown to put the Jets 21-7 up. They're the honourable mentions. Now, on to the big boys. So, on 2nd and goal from the 2, every team has their go-to players, whether that's a running back to smash through the middle, a tush push, or a tight end to muscle in a catch. For the Buccaneers, it's always been Mr. Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. Lining up as the only receiver in a goal line situation makes you know you're a target for defenders. But to Evans, it just doesn't matter. Baker drops back, throws a fade, but it's too high. Evans, leaping backwards and twisting in the air, catches the ball Odell Beckham style with 3 fingers before coming down, tapping his feet in bounds to give the Bucs the early first quarter lead versus the Panthers. This is in there because the catch itself. So actually, Mike Evans getting up, getting his fingers on the ball and gripping it whilst coming down and twisting, but just the body control to be able to twist, land, get his feet in bounds, and not even have the ball move. It just goes to show what I've been saying for many, many, many months now, that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, without any shadow of a doubt.
Does he get his 1,000 yards this season?
Yes, he'll get them. He'll get them. By hook or by crook, he'll get them.
I hope he does. He deserves it.
Honestly, I think even if, I mean, it's been unlucky that he's missed a couple of games, but if there's a chance he gets there in the last game, I can really see a game plan that kind of forces the ball to him a bit. But we'll see. We'll see. But I hope he does. Hope he does. Right.
Saints is
On
their
with,
last game at home, so yeah,
well,
feed him,
just feed
Seymour.
him. Just keep feeding him, and he'll make it happen. Him and Baker will make it happen. Right. Onwards. 3rd and 5 at the 50-yard line. Quarterback takes a snap, drops back. He has 3 receivers out left, so looks that way. Releasing the ball to the deepest receiver who's moved beyond the first down marker. Receiver's got a step and is free, and so should be able to make the catch. But there is a problem. The ball is inaccurate and is thrown behind the route. In a move that belittles his advancing years, Adam Thielen puts the brakes on, spins his body round, and with a hand as soft as a new pillow, manages to one-hand the catch whilst falling backwards to keep the drive alive in overtime for the Panthers. You alluded to it earlier. Adam Thielen looked 10 years younger on this play than he has done for at least 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I was looking back through the other power plays, and he actually got one against the Raiders as well. So he's definitely stepped his game up this season as Mr. Thielen.
He's had a good season. He looked so slow when he first came over to Carolina.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is. Maybe some extra Weetabix, but
there's something. He's definitely doing something. I think it's cinnamon in his porridge, or like I said, Weetabix. I don't know, but
cayenne pepper in his water. I don't know.
It's one of those. It's one of those catches that only elite receivers can make, because it's body control, it's mental agility to be able to spot the problem as the ball's coming. Because when the ball's released, he's not even come out of the break of his route yet, so he hasn't even located where the ball is. To be able to then just one hand it as you're falling backwards, and he almost manages to slow himself down enough to be able to just feather the ball into his hand rather than actually catching it.
Yeah, he tracked it in, didn't he? He just tracked it into his hand so perfectly.
It was fantastic play. Hence why it's in the power plays.
Absolutely.
Right, onwards. It's mid-second quarter, and a team are driving deep into your territory looking to extend their 2-touchdown lead. On 3rd and 8 from the 10-yard line, Aaron Rodgers takes the snap and drops back to make a pass towards Garrett Wilson. That's going to go for a touchdown, surely. Now, as we get older, we all realize our eyesight starts to get worse. And clearly, Aaron Rodgers hasn't noticed his former Jet colleague, big old Leonard Williams, dropping back into coverage. The big man blocks the passing lane and manages to bat the ball up to himself. Now, I'm sure he's feeling good with an interception, but big old 99 thinks, I'd really like to stick the knife into this team. And he takes off down the left sideline. As he's joined in the procession by his teammates, he rumbles 90 yards for the longest big man with football touchdown we've seen in a long time, and gets his Seahawks back in the game. The other interesting thing with this was that he was virtually untouched.
Mm-hmm.
So once he'd intercepted the ball at the 10, I can't remember who it was, someone tried to make a tackle on him at about the 12, and then that was it. No one got near him for the rest of the play. So I'm sure he was on the sideline sucking oxygen afterwards.
He was.
but big old Leonard, fantastic play from the big man.
There's 2 things on that one. First of all, did you see the interview of him after the game?
No, I didn't.
Because he was talking about, because they're obviously talking about it, and they did say when he got past halfway, he was looking to maybe lateral it because he was worried about not making it.
Gassed out.
And the other one, when you watch the replay, watch Devin Witherspoon contemplating whether he has to actually make a tackle on the offensive lineman who's trying to make a stop. He's just constantly back and forth, like, should I do it? Should I do it? No, I don't need to do it. I'm okay. Luckily, he didn't need to make any tackle. But
he would have got squashed, Witherspoon, to be honest.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
great
no,
play.
I haven't seen it. I mean, the first thing that caught my eye on this play wasn't so much the interception itself, but it was the fact that Williams had lined up at the right defensive tackle position and had actually come across on a diagonal to get into the passing lane. So interestingly, it wasn't that Rodgers couldn't see him, but that he wouldn't have seen him until the last second.
Yeah.
So again, really well designed play and perfectly executed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So After all these talks of concussions and should quarterbacks be allowed to slide, at the end of the day, football is a game, and games are supposed to be fun. Sometimes it takes external factors to help the game prove that, and nothing helps more than snow. We all love a good snow game.
No, we don't.
From players slipping and sliding all over the place to snow angels after touchdowns, sometimes the NFL does take itself too seriously. In Buffalo on Sunday, the Bills were having fun, and this play pretty much epitomizes that. Up 21-3 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter, the Bills have a first and goal at the 6 yard line. Couldn't tell for certain because there was too much snow on the ground, but it looked like the 6 yard line. Allen took the snap, throws a quick slant out to Amari Cooper, who is stood up at the 5. With an incredible piece of quick thinking, Allen tracks over towards Cooper and calls for the ball to be lateral back to him. Cooper immediately obliges, and as Allen rounds the corner, he breaks a tackle before managing to keep his feet under him and dive into the corner of the end zone to put the nail in the 49ers coffin. Now, you'll probably call foul and say that this was a design play, but if you watch it back and just watch Josh Allen after he's thrown the ball, he's just ambling about. He's not actually intending to go and get this lateral. So to me, it was quite clear that he thought of it on the spot and just went, you know what, let's give it a go and see what happens. I just thought it was a really fun play in a really fun game that deserved to be in there from the player that I think is probably the favourite for the NFL MVP now.
It was an interesting play. I would call a bit of a marker against that 49ers defense that the fact they allowed him to get in shows how soft they are.
Maybe, but the fact that I suppose the one question I'd have on the 49ers defense would be why didn't they put Cooper on the ground when there was two of them hugging him?
Well, exactly. The whole thing's just a bit kind of soft.
But fun.
Yes,
but at the end of the day, the game is fun.
It was fun, yes. It was surely be a Madden play pretty soon.
No Madden plays this week. Interesting. After reverse hurdles and juke moves and spin moves and everything else we've had recently. No Madden plays.
Need a week off at least.
Very sensibly.
Well, there we go. Those were the games. Those are the power plays. And despite not having Dave or Finn here, I think we managed to cover those off pretty well. So we can now go and have a rest.
I need oxygen. You thought Leonard Williams was bad. Jeez, wait till you see me at the end of this.
Absolutely. Let's go and have a rest then, Punk. But make sure, as you got this far, that you're following us on social media and checking us out on patreon.com/finaldown, subscribing on there. It costs you nothing to subscribe on there. But if you want to get the extra content, you will need to give just a little bit of money. Doesn't cost too much though. But even if you don't,
come on, Christmas is coming. Tiny Tim needs his new shoes. Come on,
maybe if you don't, doesn't matter. Still sign up so you can get notifications of all the drops. But that's it. Until next week. I've been Jim. That's been Punk Raider. Thank you very much for listening.